Umueze was a peaceful village where life moved at a gentle pace. The people farmed, traded at the market, and gathered under the big Iroko tree to share stories. While other villages had stories of strange happenings, young women found lifeless with odd bite marks. Nothing like that had ever happened in Umueze. In this quiet village lived Chika, a woman so beautiful that men often stopped in their tracks to admire her. Her skin glowed like fresh palm oil, and her smile could melt the hardest heart. Many men had asked for her hand in marriage, farmers, hunters, even wealthy traders from faraway lands. But each time, Chika shook her head and said, "I have not seen the right one." Her mother, Adaku, was growing impatient. "Chika, how long will you keep saying this?" she asked one evening as they sat outside their hut peeling cassava. "Do you not see your mates? They are all married with children. A woman's beauty does not last forever." Chika sighed and placed a piece of cassava in the basket. "Mama, marriage is not about rushing. I want to be sure before I say yes." Adaku clicked her tongue and shook her head. You are playing with time, my daughter. Beauty fades, but a good husband will stay. You should at least consider some of these men before they lose interest." Chika only smiled. Deep inside, she wanted love, but something in her heart told her to wait. And so, she continued to turn down suitors, not knowing that soon a man would come into her life, one so charming, so perfect, that he would make her doubt all her reasons for waiting. A man who carried a secret darker than she could ever imagine. The news spread quickly. A wealthy and handsome hunter had moved to Umueze. His name was Obina, and from the moment he arrived, the women of the village could not stop talking about him. He was tall, with dark, smooth skin and a confident walk. His muscles showed the strength of a man who had spent years hunting in the wild. More than that, he was rich. His compound was bigger than any in the village, with fine furniture and rare animal skins decorating his walls. Women admired him openly, giggling whenever he passed by. Mothers whispered to their daughters, hoping he would choose one of them. But Obina never paid attention to any of them. He walked with pride, his sharp eyes always focused ahead, uninterested in the eager glances thrown his way. Until the day he met Chika. It happened in the village market. Chika was haggling over the price of ripe plantains when she felt someone watching her. She turned and found Obina standing a few feet away, his gaze fixed on her. His face, usually unreadable, softened as he took a step closer. "You drive a hard bargain," he said with a small smile. Chika raised an eyebrow, amused. "And you stare a little too much." Obina chuckled. "Forgive me. I have traveled far and seen many women, but none as beautiful as you." Chika felt her cheeks grow warm, but she only smiled. She had turned down many men before. Why should he be different? But Obina was not like the others. He was persistent but never pushy. He found excuses to run into her. At the stream, near the market, during village gatherings. He spoke well, carried himself with quiet confidence, and never wasted words. The more time she spent with him, the more drawn to him she became. And soon, she was captivated. One evening, after walking her home, Obina stopped at her gate and looked into her eyes. "Chika," he said softly, "I want to make you my wife." Chika felt her heart race. She had waited so long, turned down so many men, but for the first time she felt sure. Obina was handsome, kind, and rich. What more could she ask for? She smiled and said, "Yes." Word spread like wildfire. Chika, the most beautiful woman in Umueze, was engaged to Obina, the most admired man in the village. Women envied her, men congratulated Obina, and her mother nearly burst with joy. "Finally, my daughter," Adaku exclaimed, hugging her. "You have chosen well. This man is perfect." But as perfect as Obina seemed, there was one thing about him that remained a mystery. His past. Whenever Chika asked about his family, he gave the same short answer. "I lost my parents when I was young. I have no family left." Chika did not press further. She was too happy to care. She had finally found the one. Soon, she would be a wife. The first time Chika had the dream, she woke up in a cold sweat. She was standing alone in a vast empty space, the air thick and silent. Then from the shadows, a snake slithered towards her, its golden eyes glowing in the darkness. It circled her slowly, its scales cool against her skin. She tried to move, but her feet were heavy, stuck to the ground. Then just as the snake raised its head to stare directly into her eyes, she woke up. At first she ignored it, but when the dream kept returning night after night, she grew uneasy. One afternoon, as she helped her mother pound yam, she finally spoke about it. "Mama, something is bothering me," she said hesitantly. Adaku wiped sweat from her forehead and glanced at her daughter. "What is it, my child?" "I keep having the same dream," Chica admitted. "A snake, always wrapping itself around me. It doesn't bite, but it watches me like it knows something I don't." Her mother clicked her tongue and waved a hand dismissively. It is just your mind playing tricks on you. The wedding is close and you are thinking too much. It is nothing." "But Mama, it feels real," Chica insisted. "Every night the same thing happens." "My dear, you are about to become a wife. This is just stress. Forget it and focus on your new home." Chica sighed. Maybe her mother was right. Maybe it was just wedding anxiety. Still, later that evening, she decided to mention it to Obina. They were sitting outside his compound, the night breeze cool against their skin. Fireflies flickered in the darkness and the faint sounds of the village drifted in the air. "Obina," she said softly, "I've been having a strange dream." He turned to her, his expression calm. "Tell me." She hesitated for a moment, then said, "A snake. It keeps appearing in my sleep. It coils around me and just watches, like it's waiting to attack." For a brief second, Obina's face changed. It was quick, so quick that Chica almost thought she imagined it. His eyes darkened, his jaw tightened. Then, just as fast, he threw his head back and laughed. "Ah, my love," he said, grinning. "The only snake you need to worry about is my manhood." Chica felt heat rush to her face as she realized what he meant. She playfully hit his arm. "Obina, I'm serious." "And I'm telling you, it is nothing," he said, still chuckling. "Dreams mean nothing, my dear. What matters is that we are getting married soon." Chica looked at him, then sighed. Maybe he was right. Maybe she was just being foolish. So she pushed the worry aside. She told herself it was nothing. The day of Chica and Obina's wedding was filled with music, laughter, and celebration. The whole of Umweze gathered to witness the union of the village's most beautiful woman and its most admired man. Chica looked radiant in her traditional attire, her coral beads resting gracefully on her neck, her smile bright with happiness. Obina, standing tall beside her, exuded pride as he took her hand in front of the elders and vowed to love and protect her. Adaku wiped tears from her eyes. Her daughter was finally a wife. The festivities stretched into the night, drumming, dancing, and feasting. When it was finally time for the bride and groom to retire, the women led Chica to her husband's home, singing songs of love and fruitfulness. The house was quiet when Obina closed the door behind them. Chica felt her heart race, not from fear, but from the weight of the moment. She was now a married woman, and tonight would be her first night as Obina's wife. Obina poured them both a drink and sat beside her. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes locked on hers. Chica smiled shyly. "Thank you, my husband." He leaned closer, tracing a gentle finger along her hand. "You know, Chica, a man's manhood is like a snake," he said in a slow, deep voice. Chica blinked, slightly taken aback. "A snake?" "Yes," he continued. "Both can be unpredictable. Both can strike when least expected." Something about the way he said it made the hairs on Chica's arms rise. His voice was calm, but there was a strange intensity in his eyes. She let out a nervous laugh. "Obina, you and your sayings." Obina smirked and took her hand, pulling her gently toward him. "Tonight, my love, let me show you." Chica quickly placed a hand on his chest. "Obina, please. I'm tired. The day was long. Can we wait?" A flicker of disappointment crossed his face, but it was gone in an instant. He nodded slowly and leaned back. "There's no rush," he said with a small smile. "You are mine now, forever. We have all the time in the world." Chica exhaled in relief. turned away, and fell asleep almost immediately. But even in sleep, the dream returned. The same snake, the same glowing eyes, watching her, waiting. The next morning, Chica woke up to the warm morning sun streaming through the window. She turned to find Obina already awake, sitting at the edge of the bed, staring into the distance. "Good morning," she said, stretching. "Good morning, my wife," he replied, turning to her with a smile. "It is a new day, a new beginning." He stood up and faced her. "Chica, I want you to come back with me to my village. Business is better there, and I want us to build our future together." Chica hesitated. She had always imagined staying in Umueze, close to her mother and everything she knew, but Obina was her husband now. It was her duty to follow him. She nodded. "I will go with you, but first, I must visit my grandmother. She has been sick for a while. I need to see her before I leave." Obina's expression did not change, but something about the way he looked at her made Chica feel uneasy. After a pause, he finally said, "All right, visit your grandmother, but do not take too long. Our journey awaits." Chica smiled, relieved. She had no idea just how important that visit would be. The journey to Mamakachi's house was long, but Chica did not mind. Her grandmother's home sat at the edge of Umueze, near the thick forest where the wind always carried whispers of ancient wisdom. Mamakachi was old, but her spirit was sharp as ever. She was a woman filled with wisdom, the kind that made people sit up and listen when she spoke. As soon as Chica arrived, her grandmother embraced her warmly. "Ah, my child," Mamakachi said, holding her face between her hands. "Marriage looks good on you." Chica smiled, but the weight in her heart made it hard to enjoy the moment. She sat beside her grandmother as she prepared a bowl of warm soup. "Mama, I need to talk to you," she said softly. Mamakachi glanced at her, reading the worry in her granddaughter's eyes. "Go on, my child." Chica hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I have been having strange dreams, Mama. The same dream over and over, a snake circling around me, staring at me." Mamakachi stopped stirring the soup. She turned slowly, her wise old eyes narrowing. "A snake." Chica nodded. "And there is more. Obina wants me to leave Umueze with him. He says business is better in his village and we should start our life there." Her grandmother was silent for a moment. Then she placed the wooden spoon down and turned to face Chica fully. "My child," she said in a low voice, "before you follow a man into the unknown, you must seek the truth." Chica frowned. "What do you mean?" "Dreams are not just dreams," Mamakachi said. "They are sometimes warnings. And a snake that watches you but does not bite? That is a sign of something hidden, something waiting to reveal itself, to harm." Chica swallowed hard. "So, what should I do?" Mamakachi held her gaze firmly. "Go to the oracle. Ask what your dreams mean. Ask who your husband truly is. I feel your dreams are connected to your husband somehow, but I cannot place it." Chica hesitated. In Umweze, people only went to the oracle when something serious was at stake, but deep inside she knew her grandmother was right. "All right," she said finally, "I will go." When Chica returned home, there was a new determination in her eyes. Obina welcomed her with a warm smile, opening his arms for an embrace. "My love, I missed you." Chica let herself sink into his arms, forcing a smile. "I missed you too." But something had changed. Obina sensed it. He studied her face for a moment, his sharp eyes searching. "You seem different. Did something happen?" Chica shook her head quickly. "Nothing, my love. I am just preparing myself for our journey." Obina watched her for a long moment before nodding. "Good. We leave tomorrow." Chica smiled, but inside her heart raced. She had no idea what awaited her, but one thing was certain. She was not leaving Umwez blind. Later that day, Chica sat in her hut, her heart pounding in her chest. Tonight was the night. She had spent the last few hours pretending to be her usual self, smiling at Obina, speaking softly, and preparing for their journey. But deep inside, she knew she had to act before it was too late. She reached into the small bag beside her bed and touched the flute the oracle had given her. It was smooth, carved with tiny snake patterns, its power hidden in its unassuming size. You must use it carefully, the oracle had warned her. Once played, the truth will come out. The creature is bound to him, but it is also dangerous. Be ready. She took a deep breath. She was ready. That evening, Chica called Obina to their hut. She welcomed him with a warm smile, lighting a small oil lamp that cast flickering shadows on the walls. "My love," she purred, touching his arm gently. "Before we leave, I want to be yours. Truly yours." Obina raised an eyebrow, a smirk forming on his lips. "I thought you wanted to wait." Chica shook her head, trailing her fingers along his chest. "I have waited long enough." Obina exhaled, his muscles relaxing under her touch, but then, as if remembering something, he pulled back slightly. "No, not yet," he said, looking at her intently. "Let us wait until we reach my village. It will be more special there." Chica forced a smile. "Why wait, my love?" She leaned in, pressing herself closer. "We are already husband and wife." Obina studied her face, searching for something. For a moment, Chica feared he would sense the deception. Then, slowly, he smiled. "You are right," he whispered. Chica's heart pounded as she guided him to sit on the mat. She needed him to be completely at ease. She moved slowly, running her fingers along his arm, then down his chest. She could feel his breathing slow, his body relaxing. This was her moment. She reached behind her, gripping the flute. Before Obina could react, she brought it to her lips and began to play. The sound filled the room, low, haunting, and sharp. It carried through the air like a whisper from another world. Obina jerked violently. His body convulsed, his limbs twisting unnaturally. His mouth opened in a silent scream as his eyes rolled back. Then it happened. A hissing sound filled the hut as the thing behind between his legs began to move. His manhood transformed into a living, coiling serpent. It slithered violently, its scales shimmering under the dim light, its mouth wide open, revealing sharp, venomous fangs. Chica stumbled backward, horrified. She had expected something unnatural, but not this. The snake let out an angry hiss, sensing the deception. It knew. Obina gasped, his body trembling as he clutched his stomach. He turned to Chica, his face twisted in anger and shock. "What have you done?" he growled, his voice barely human. Chica gripped the flute tighter. Her breath was unsteady, but she stood firm. It was time for the truth. "I went to the oracle after visiting my grandmother," she said, her voice steady despite the fear rising in her chest. "She told me the truth about you, Obina." Obina's nostrils flared. The snake at his waist coiled tighter, preparing to strike. Chica stepped back, refusing to look away. "You are not a normal man," she continued. "Your manhood is not flesh. It is a snake, a venomous creature. And the women you have been with before me, they were all killed by you." Obina's face darkened. "You should not have done this, Chica." Her fingers trembled against the flute, but she did not stop. "You never stay in one village long enough to be discovered," she whispered. "You leave before they can put the pieces together. But this time, you chose the wrong woman." Obina bared his teeth. The snake at his waist twitched, its yellow eyes fixed on Chica. For a moment, they stood in silence. Then suddenly, Obina lunged. Chica had only one chance. She lifted the flute to her lips and played again. The melody pierced the air, vibrating with an unnatural force. The snake convulsed violently, its body twisting as if it was being ripped apart from Obina. Obina screamed. The creature at his waist writhed in agony, its mouth foaming. The sound of the flute forced it out of hiding, breaking whatever control Obina had over it. But the oracle's warning echoed in Chica's mind. "Be careful. The snake is bound to his soul. If it is destroyed, so is he." Tears blurred Chica's vision as she watched the man she once loved struggle, his body breaking under the power of the flute. Obina's body trembled, his face twisted in pain as the flute's power held him captive. The serpent coiled around his waist hissed violently, its golden eyes glowing with fury. Then, with a broken laugh, he spoke. You finally know the truth, he gasped, his voice laced with something between madness and amusement. His body shuddered, his strength fading, yet his lips curled into a wicked smile. Yes, I killed them, he admitted, his voice eerily calm. The women from the villages, they all died by my hands. Or rather, by my snake. Chica's stomach twisted in disgust. She had known the truth, but hearing him say it, hearing him admit it so casually made her blood boil. But it's not my fault, Obina continued, his breathing ragged. They were drawn to me. My wealth, my face, my charm. They wanted to be with me, so I gave them what they desired, and the snake took the rest. He laughed then, a dark, chilling sound that sent shivers down Chica's spine. She gripped the flute tighter. You are wicked, she spat. A woman being attracted to a man is not a crime. It is not a reason to kill. Obina tilted his head, his smirk fading. For the first time, his expression showed something close to fear. You think you have won? He whispered. You think you have saved yourself? Chica lifted the flute again. No, Obina, she said, her voice steady. I have saved them all. She played the final note. A deafening hiss filled the hut as the snake convulsed violently, its body twisting and curling in agony. Obina screamed, his eyes wide with terror as the magic of the flute ripped the creature from his soul. The snake thrashed, its scales burning with unseen flames, its mouth opened wide in a silent shriek, and in one final brutal moment, it collapsed. Obina's body jerked, his mouth parting in a last breath. Then he fell still. The great hunter of Umueze was dead. His body lay lifeless, his arms outstretched, his face frozen in shock. The snake was wrapped around him, dead as well. The beast had been defeated. Chica stood in silence, staring at the horror she had uncovered. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, her hands still gripping the flute. She had done it. She had survived. But she was not alone for long. The sounds of Obina's screams had drawn the attention of the villagers. Soon, voices and footsteps rushed toward her hut. The door burst open, and the people of Umueze gasped in horror at what they saw. Obina's lifeless body, his snake coiled around him like a final embrace. Murmurs filled the air. What happened? The great hunter is dead. A snake. Is this what he truly was? Chica turned to them, her expression filled with pain and relief. He was never who he claimed to be, she said, her voice strong. Obina was a monster hiding in plain sight. He killed those women in the neighboring villages, and he would have killed again. A heavy silence fell over the crowd. Then anger and realization set in. He was the one? An elder whispered, eyes wide in shock. The one who caused all those mysterious deaths? Yes, Chica confirmed. The weight of her words shook the entire village. Soon, news of Obina's true nature spread like wildfire. Neighboring villages that had once mourned their daughters now knew the truth. They finally had closure. Umueze had been spared, but only because of Chica's courage. For days, the village spoke of nothing else. Women wept for those who had been lost. Fathers and brothers cursed Obina's name, and elders shook their heads in sorrow. But amidst the sorrow, there was also relief. The danger was gone, and Chica was hailed as a hero. She was honored not just in Umueze, but in every village that had suffered loss. People praised her bravery, speaking of how she had uncovered the deception, how she had destroyed the hidden beast. Her name was spoken with respect. But even as life returned to normal, her story was never forgotten. For years, parents warned their daughters, not every handsome face is a blessing, not every wealthy man is a good man. Beware the ones who hide their true nature. And so, Chica's tale lived on. A warning, a lesson, a reminder that monsters do not always lurk in the dark. Sometimes they smile in the daylight.